Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana Fiestra, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business, we've got you covered. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Negotiating Happiness, and I'm your host, Adriana. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And if you wanted to, sit down, watch some TV, check out some of our other shows, we are also on Roku TV on UFO Paranormal Channel. So today is March 18th, and it's already 1 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. Grab your lunch, grab your coffee. I'm back here with Natalie. How are you, Natalie?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. Well, I mean, you know what? To be completely frank, I'm all right. I'm 23 weeks pregnant, so I'm keeping on, but I'm good. I'm excited to be here today.
Congratulations. I am so honored that you made time for us. I know pregnancy can be rough, so
pregnancy with a chronic illness. Pregnancy with a chronic illness is another level. Yeah.
I don't doubt it. So thank you so much for being here. For those of you who remember Natalie, she was on last year and we talked about digital marketing and all of that good stuff. So let me do a quick re-intro of Natalie. She is an accomplished founder and CEO of S&S Creative, a multiple six-figure digital marketing agency. With her Bachelor of Commerce, honors degree in marketing and international business, Natalie has built a solid reputation in the industry. She brings over 15 years of experience, having worked with multi-million-dollar organizations to her own company. She's also a certified breathwork facilitator. Natalie's authentic approach to showcasing the behind the scenes of her personal and professional life has helped her attract over 30,000 loyal followers. Her work ethic and ability to deliver results have earned her a name as a trusted expert in the field. Now, Natalie is dedicated to sharing her expertise to help entrepreneurs grow their businesses through effective digital marketing strategies that actually convert into dollars. And her boutique agency has already helped numerous clients achieve measurable success online. And overall, Natalie is a true trailblazer in the digital marketing world, and her passion for helping others has made a positive impact on countless entrepreneurs looking to achieve their own success. And I also wanted to mention that Natalie also has her own podcast, and it's called Sick and Successful, where she speaks to different people who have different chronic illnesses that have become successful and continue to help others kind of understand that limitation doesn't have to mean a limitation over everything, which is very inspirational. So if you guys want to check out her podcast, check her out on Spotify.
Spotify, Google, Apple, really anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Anywhere, but I have you saved on Spotify. So.
I love it. I love it.
That's amazing. So I wanted to chat and to see, what have you been up to lately?
Yeah, there's been a lot of things. I think this last quarter in business was our busiest quarter, and then this one is one of our slowest. And so we've used that time to really slow down and take a step backwards and redefine a lot of processes in business and things like that. But I've also started writing a book, and I'm about 85% done, I would say, of my shitty first draft. Hopefully we can swear here.
Yeah, you're good.
So I'm pretty excited about that. It's been a whirlwind of a process, but it's something I'm super passionate about right now. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's amazing. So what was the reasoning? Tell me a bit more about your why for the book.
The book. So the book has always been in me, and I am a public speaker. I talk on stages. I have clients. I do all that kind of stuff. And the story's always been the ethos of almost everything I do. The podcast, the company name is S&S. Everyone who works for us is either sick with a chronic illness, takes care of someone with a chronic illness, or is a stay-at-home mom. So it's kind of wrapped into every aspect of life or business for me. But the book in and of itself has always been there. although English was my third language, so I learned Polish first, then went to French immersion. Then I always say I learned English on the playground. I never considered myself an author, but I knew I had a book in me. So I explored a bunch of different things and like ghostwriters and traditional publishing and hybrid and self publishing. And I kind of always just felt like when the right opportunity comes to me, I don't know if you know human design, but I'm a projector. So I was like, when I get
Okay.
invited to write this book, I will write this book, but I'm not going to push it and like be, like trying to write a book and have no idea how to do so. And so
Right.
I just met somebody who had like a weekly thing, and I am a part of it, and it's been really cool. So like I started that in and around November or October, and the book should be done by the end of April. Not ready to publish, but ready to start the publishing process.
That's amazing. And I do know a little bit about human design, and I forget what mine came up. I don't think it was a projector. I forget what it
No,
was. I
projector is
have,
like one of the lowest, like it's only like 3% or something.
right, I have the actual write up somewhere, which
I love it.
reminds me I should probably pay a little bit more attention
It was
to
really
it.
validating for me. It really was.
Right, right. I ended up missing actually one of the calls that had to do with that test, but I remember doing the test, so I have to actually go back and listen to it. It's amazing how we can still be a part of things now without actually being there. Like we have so much access to information is great, but
Totally.
that actually kind of goes into what you were saying. You're not going to push things. You're not going to do things just because they're in front of you, because we are getting bombarded with so much information and so many opportunities. I think you have to be kind of selective about it,
Well,
right?
and
So
specifically writing a book, like it's such, first of all, a daunting process. Like, how many people want to be authors who never become
right,
them? But also, like, it takes so much work and passion and heart that it's not something you can just like sit down and do in a day, especially like I'm writing a memoir type book. So I needed support in doing so.
right. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about, if you can, about the vibe of the book and kind of what you want to cover in it.
Yeah. So the book, it's called Sick and Successful, trademark pending.
Yep.
And it's very much a memoir. So it is my story of going back to when I was diagnosed, some crazy things that happened to me, um, all throughout that journey and all the hospital stays and all the things that took me to starting my own business, where there's a lot of roller coasters and ups and downs and really deep personal stories that I even like some of the closest people to me didn't know.
Right.
And then how I started this business, that kind of stuff. So when I was first diagnosed, or even when I was like 10 years in but really sick, I always wished to, like, I love to read, and there was never any books where I felt represented or I felt like I can relate or like, wow, that's inspiring, or I would love to, like, do that one day, or wow, she traveled all 25 countries or whatever while in the middle of a flare, like I can do that too, like that kind of stuff. So it very much so is, number one, to get the story out of me and a
Right.
healing process for me, but number two, to inspire others of what's possible. Not to teach about chronic illness, not to give like any health advice or what I did was right or wrong, but really to show like it's possible for you.
That's right. And that's important. I know you mentioned healing, and a lot of people probably feel like we get bombarded with that type of verbiage so often now online that people don't really understand how powerful that whole process is, and how we can propel you forward, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not just about being woo woo or about, being all sensitive or feminine, if you will, right? Depending on how you feel about it. It's about taking the time to process all of the things that you've gone through and to really analyze them and say, I did well in the following areas. I could have improved here, but also, wow, what an opportunity. Like that, even out of the worst parts of your
Mm-hmm.
experiences, beautiful things can happen,
Totally.
right?
And I
So,
get, there's moments in the book where like it gets dark and it's tough. Like I really go into some of the medical trauma I've experienced, and like the way that I write, I've really realized that it's very like uh it feels like you're in that moment with me, because I'm even like I don't know. I'm in a peer review group, so this is what they echo to me, but I really have a unique sense of showing what I was thinking in the moment while explaining the situation. And so it's, yes, the book is inspiring, but it's also relatable for anybody going through any type
Mm-hmm.
of chronic illness, of like how dark it can get and how sometimes you let really shitty people in your life do shitty things, and you can still get past that and work through it and still
Yeah.
create a life that works around you. Like there's moments where corporate rumors were spread or stuff like that was happening in the workplace. And I go through all of that because I really wanted that. Like, past me would have loved to have a book to see shit. Like, it's not just me, it happens to
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
And not that like I handled everything in the best way, but I got through it. And you can relate to other people who are reading the book and maybe have a book club with other people who have chronic illnesses, things like that, and go through it together. And so it's been really healing for me, and I hope it'll be healing for others.
For sure. And isn't it wonderful how far you've come and you're able to even say the words like, hey, past me would have really loved this,
For sure.
right? And it's not about like tooting your own horn. It's about doing the whole, like the typical of like, grab your 12-year-old self and tell her it'll be okay. But it's true, and it's actually such a it's it's just like a way to help you like move forward. So even for people that haven't been through this, or maybe they know and have family members or friends or whatever they're going through it, it would be such a great tool to have to kind of understand, be like, listen, sometimes it's not about me, the way they're living their life or whatever it is. We just need to be there for them.
Yeah, and I
Sometimes
don't
it's just
even
the
mind.
situation.
Totally. I don't even mind tooting my own horn because, like, to get where I am today, next to impossible through the stuff that I went through. And a lot of the time I was like in survivor mode. And so, like you said, it is such a cool book for people who have someone in their life who has a chronic illness or a friend or something like that. Because 90% of the time when I was in the worst of it, nobody around me knew how bad it was, other than maybe my husband, boyfriend at the time. And
Yeah.
so it really, and I hear this about my podcast all the time, is like moms of children with chronic illness or stuff like that are like, thank you so much. Cause it's so hard to relate as a caregiver. And I always say being a caregiver is sometimes harder than being the chronic illness patient, in the sense that we know we can't control our pain and we have to suffer through it. We have no other choice. But a caregiver has to watch you, someone they love, suffer through pain, and they
Yeah.
have no way of helping. And so this is like a way to kind of get into the mindset of when we are grumpy, or like why it pisses us off so bad when you ask how I'm feeling when I'm in the depths of a chronic illness flare. Like there's just so many different little tidbits like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't mind tooting my horn of where I've gotten. And that's why I feel like it was put on me, on my shoulders, to share this journey in a book, even though English was my third language, even though grammar sucks. Like I'm paying people to fix that in the book. But I
That's
think it
fair.
was like universe, God, whatever you believe, put it on my shoulders because I don't mind tooting my own horn. Like I teach in university. I got a degree in marketing. I started a successful business with 16 entrepreneurs. I've had a podcast for X amount of years. Like all of that is something that so many people with chronic illness aspire to. And I'm not done. Like I'm still sick. I still make mistakes. I still suck. I still fight with my husband. Like there's so many things, but I do want to, like, I want to normalize women tooting their own horns.
Yes, yes. And that's, it's funny that you pointing that out is just another example of why we've been trained not to toot our own horns. We've been trained to just sit there and be quiet and be helpful, right? Instead
Exactly.
of take charge. You're right. You're 100% right. And you caught me on my
No,
misogyny
it's
right
all
there.
good. But it's so true.
Right.
We've been taught not to. And like that, it's like,
Hmm.
oh, I should be
Hmm.
quiet. But I'm like, heck no. Like this was hard. This was
Right.
hard. And it's
Right.
going to be hard for whoever wants to follow in my path or make their own. Hopefully, make their own. But
Yes.
it's going to be hard. It's not that it's easy, but it is possible. And that's kind of like the whole mission of everything sick and successful, is that it's possible.
Right.
Because it almost feels like there's not enough people saying that. It's like either it's woo woo, like manifest it and you'll get it. Life will be great. Just be happy, self care. And then there's like
What a
chronic illness,
great summary.
right?
I love the self-care at the end there because I talk about this too and I'm like people get so triggered about these words now because they've been misused for so long. But
Exactly.
it's true though. It's true. Um we've got a comment here from Azul Education. That's from Helen, and Helen says, "Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you, Helen.
Thank you for tuning in, Helen." She is a big supporter, and
Love it
we appreciate it when people come in with comments.
so much.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is hard that we feel like we're not supposed to toot our own horns, and we feel like we're just supposed to be successful and quiet about it, or else like we're gonna ruffle some feathers. And you
Yeah,
know
and
what?
believe me, like when this book is done, I
Who
am going to
cares?
stand on the rooftops and mountaintops screaming like, "Look at me, I did it." Because holy, is this the hardest thing that I've ever done? And like getting into the depths of some of those moments, I actually started a wait list for my book where I'm going to share some of the
Yes.
behind the scenes of writing this book, because there's moments where like I'll write a story that took me 15 minutes or 30 minutes to write, and then I bawl my eyes out for like the next 2 hours like processing that in my body, and I have tools like breath work, whatever, therapy
Mm-hmm.
to go through it, but like wow. There's a story specifically I'm thinking of that I've read to a couple people now, and like they start bawling. And not that I want this book to be a trauma fest, it's not, but there's moments where it's like, that's a
That's a
lot.
lot. That's a
And
lot.
that's
Yeah.
always kept inside and nobody talks about it. And so yeah, when this book is done, I'm gonna scream it from the
You're so
rooftops.
excited. I love it.
Yeah.
I just actually pasted for anybody that's listening live or on the archive. Go back to the comments on any of our channels. If you're listening to it on SoundCloud, just go back to like YouTube or Facebook and grab the link there, or actually look in
It's
the
super
description. It
easy as
should be,
well. It's
yeah,
just sickandsuccessful.com. So
yeah,
sickandsuccessful.com, you'll be able to sign up for that wait list. I haven't sent any emails
perfect.
out yet because I'm kind of just compiling my thoughts, and but there's moments where I'll literally write and then I'll write a summary of what I'm feeling and what I went through just writing that section, because I want to share it with you guys to know that it,
Yeah.
again, it's possible to write a book like this even though I'm not experienced and it's hard.
And funny enough, when you say, English is your third language, can you just pause for a second? English is my second language, and I am grateful to be here. But it's hard. It's
It's hard.
hard to, not only process those things yourself, but to put it into words. And then you have to, on top of it, put it into words that other people might want to read with emotion or with enough, interesting factor to it that it becomes a book. It's hard.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
tell me
hard.
it's not. It's hard. This is why people spend years writing books. And on top of it, like, you're pregnant, Like,
I know,
can we
right?
not? Can
The
we not forget
timing
about that? Like,
and
let's
running a
not forget about
company and a
that.
house and a child and
Yeah.
yeah, the I'm lucky that English is like my primary language now, so I'm not translating anything in my head to
Yeah.
English. English is what I speak in, what I think in. And completely lost French. French was my second language, but I do still speak Polish. And yeah, it definitely is hard. And it's like I've had rumors being, or not rumors, but I've had people talk behind my back like, she can't even spell in an Instagram post. How does she teach university classes? And it's like, I'm not teaching English grammar. I'm teaching business and sales.
Right.
And guess what? In a
Right.
book, you pay a lot of money for editors to go through it. Like,
Right.
no, grammar, not my strong suit. That person has wanted to be an author their whole entire life, and I don't see any books coming. So
L- Yeah. People have this really annoying knack of oversimplifying things, right? And it's kind of like, listen, your favorite celebrity has a ghostwriter. Your
exactly.
favorite, like your do you think that anybody who's in academia, like they have assistants upon assistants? Like it's
Like, do you
not
think Prince William wrote his own book? No, he actually
right,
fought, and I've heard the story somewhere. I hope it's not like I'm not allowed to share, but he fought against parts being taken out and put in because he wanted it to be like more glamorous about him. Like, no, he didn't write
right,
his book. He probably
right,
verbalized it or transcribe, like, that, or somebody put it together. There's like so many different ways to get a book
Yes.
done. Yeah.
Yes. But just, what I'm saying is people don't understand what the process is, so they automatically just rely on these old kind of mentality or ideas about what it takes to be successful. And this is why podcasts like yours are important, and even this platform, even
Totally.
my platform. I love bringing in people, and I love showing people that there are different ways of doing things, and that one way is not always the right way. And
Exactly.
everybody that I bring on here, they all talk about failure, and I don't think people understand, like the general public understands how important that is, because most often than not, we have all gone through failure. So it's
Yeah.
not just to be relatable, but it's like, how do I get back up? How do I kind of, dissect it and do better from there? And that is what differentiates somebody that's going to be successful, that's
A
going
hundred
to get
percent.
that book out, and that person that's struggling and has not. And it's been years,
A
right?
100%. A
It's
hundred
how
percent.
you get back up that defines you as a successful person. You can't
Yep.
convince me otherwise. It's not the awards, it's not that's after. That's like the after. What people don't see, that there's like a curtain in between like the public and the awards and the fame and the success and the money, and then behind that curtain is all the like, you're all beat
Trials,
up and
tribulations.
bruised
Yeah.
and like blood, sweat and tears, you know what I mean?
Literally.
That made you kind of go on the other side of that curtain.
Yeah,
So
and
I
entrepreneurship, business, life is
yeah,
not easy. Like, even after you start getting awards, you still fall. And after, like, I call myself successful, yes, because this is my version of success, the life I'm living. But like, being completely honest, this is our slowest month in business ever, and it's terrifying. And
right.
sometimes I don't know where payroll is going to come from. And I keep going and I keep pushing. And yes, I have looked at job boards to see if like that looks better, but I quickly realized that grass is not greener on the other side, and I keep pushing and keep. It's why like 90% of businesses fail in their first 5 years, right? Or 80%. I forget the statistic, but it's
Yeah.
a high number
Yeah.
within their first 5 years for this exact reason. Business is never going to be easy, just like life's never going to be easy. Like, do we know a single person who's not had a traumatic event in their life? No.
No, but you know what the difference is, that everybody does life because there's no option. But you
Yeah.
have the option to not do business, and I think that's what sets you apart as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, right? And you're right, the rate of failure is astronomical, and that's why, exactly why I wanted to start this platform, to say don't let that deter you, because even the people that are successful, they've all gone through this too. And
Exactly.
this is more relatable than the whole, like, I'm not going to say names, but there's a bunch of celebrities, very famous family. They're all calling themselves like self-made, and I'm like, well, were you really self-made when you kind of had like a couple of million stashed in the family already?
Right.
That's debatable, right? But we're literally like, no, no, we started out with nothing.
Yeah, like when you're comparing the price of grocery items for the first time in your life, and you're like, ah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we started. I'm sorry, I've couponed before.
Right?
I'm just saying, right?
I've dumpster dived for a long period of my time. But to be honest, I was working a full-time corporate job and like was mine and my husband's date night, because the amount of things they throw in the trap, like we would dumpster dive at Michael's almost once a week when we were younger, because I literally found boxes upon boxes of Christmas lights, which I would then sell on Kijiji at the time,
Right.
Facebook Marketplace. I found mannequins that I've sold for hundreds of dollars. I love to craft. I found boxes of, and like they literally will put why it's thrown out. So the Christmas lights was like, I forget what it was, but like stuff that didn't, oh, the box didn't have French or something like that. Like the craziest stuff. And these things are going into the dumpster. So like,
I've heard
no
about
shame.
this. Yeah.
Now it's all over TikTok and everything. I'm like, oh man, I was
You're like, I
early
was
to
doing it
this
before it was
game.
cool.
Yeah, before it was cool. But like it helped
Yeah.
us when we were living in a one bedroom basement apartment. Like no
Yep.
no shame to my game. Like, I would still do it to today if I hadn't hurt trying to get into a dumpster. Like don't really
Natalie.
know what I would do with any of that stuff. Give it to someone who needs it. But
Right,
literally,
right. But but that's exactly it. It's kind of like your life is always changing. There's ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs. It's never going to be any different. We're just trying to kind of get out for the next step, right? So what's the
exactly.
next step? Like your book is the next step.
Stages.
you're saying I'm not done. I'm not done after
No,
that. There's always going to be something else, and that is the drive of an entrepreneur. And I love
exactly.
that. It's never going to be easy, because if it was, then everybody would be doing it, right? So
Well,
this
and
is why.
there's such moments where you almost feel like, for example, I was convinced I would be talking at the TEDx conference in Winnipeg. It's in June. And I was like delulu about it. I had a TEDx coach. We were working together. I'm like 100% going to be on that stage. Why wouldn't they choose me? Like my story is
Right.
phenomenal. I'm a great speaker, but they didn't choose me. And I was so like devastated about it when I got the email. I didn't even get chosen for they in Winnipeg. They don't normally do this in other places apparently for TEDx, but in Winnipeg they had like a almost like a talent show round where they picked some people and then they cut some people, but I didn't even get picked for that. And I was like, F TEDx. I don't want to do it anymore. Rip it off my vision board. But I didn't rip it off my vision board. I took moments to like settle in and hey, I am so sick right now with my pregnancy that I can hardly sit at this desk and get this interview done, never mind everything else that's on my to-do list. If I right now had to be practicing for a TEDx talk, I would not do great. I would be so burnt out. I would be so sick. And so there's moments where like it feels like a failure, but it was actually a lesson learned. And so catch me on a TEDx stage next year. But it's not this year, right? So there's moments where like even you think you're like, oh, I got this. I'm going to do so good. And this is for me. And this is the next step in business. And it's not, it might not be. And that's totally cool. Like to me, that's maybe you can call it a failure, maybe not, whatever. It's just the drive, but it's life and it's business and it's getting back up. And I've spoken on two amazing stages this year. One was the Winnipeg Women's Conference just last week. And it was like such an amazing opportunity in front of hundreds of women. I'm hopefully speaking in another one in April. And that's like kind of where I'm moving towards with the book. And organizations are asking me to come in and talk to their teams. And so that's really what I'm passionate about. But it
Right.
doesn't mean that I have to be on a TEDx stage within a couple of months of deciding that this is my new focus, right? Like, yeah.
But it's just funny how it sometimes it takes something like that to kind of check yourself, or
Yeah,
to say, I need to slow down. Like I need, you need to be in your best form next year and for the next, 60, 70 years. So
exactly.
you can't do that to yourself. So there is that kind of balance of either you want to do it all, or you're not doing anything. And it doesn't
Yep.
have to be like that, right? Like it doesn't have to be like that. It can be completely measured. And no, I wouldn't call that a failure that you didn't get on TEDx stage. It's like that's amazing that you were even at that point, right?
Thank you.
But there's always next year.
Exactly.
And
And the year after that, and places all over Canada and the States. Like it's, yeah,
yeah, no, for
totally.
sure. And I mean, why would you not take the time to make sure, like you said, to make sure that you are going to be the best on there? Because imagine
Exactly.
you weren't, right? I think that would be way more damaging than not having been on it at all,
Exactly.
right? So I totally support it. Let me know when it happens.
I will. I will. Everyone will know.
Yes, everyone. If you guys want to check out Natalie on Instagram, it's at For the
Nope,
Success.
sorry, it's not. That's
Oh,
changed. It's
oh,
at
has
Sick and
it?
Successful with a period in between.
Oh,
At
gotcha. Okay, see,
period
we'll
and
change it right
period
now.
successful.
So it's Sick and Successful.
Yes.
Got it. I must have had it from last time that we
Yeah,
were here.
probably. It's all good.
Okay, guys. So just kidding. It's actually at Sick period and period Successful.
And if you just type in sick and successful, I will come up as well. They
Yeah.
just won't let me have that handle for I don't know what reason. Nobody else has it. Not fair.
Interesting.
Dumb.
That's interesting. Yeah, that is weird. What's up with that, Meta?
Right? Come on.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on, and you've got this book going, and we've talked about your whys, and we've talked about how it's in the future. What so what you talked a little bit about it being in a peer review group. What's the actual process like? Like how are you finding that?
Yeah, so I haven't actually breached the like get this published yet because there's a bunch of different ways you can go. But that's the tough part about getting a book out there because there's so many ways you can do it. And so you can look, there's a book on or on Audible on Amazon. I believe it's just called Publish Your Purpose, but it is through the person that I'm in her group right now. and it teaches you like all the different ways to publish your own book. But what I've learned is traditional publishing. So like, I'm not going to name them, but we all know the
Yep.
traditional publishers.
Big publishing houses. Yep.
Yeah. So you essentially get paid hardly nothing, but you get paid it in advance. First of all, you have to write a big proposal and get approved by them, which is a whole process. If you don't have an audience, you essentially won't get approved, or like some kind of something that shows them you have an audience. And then if you do get approved, then it takes years for your book to come out, like years and years. They are going to edit your book in whatever way they want to. So you don't have very much say. You don't get very much money, and you still have to promote your own book and put your own money into marketing and all of that, because they really don't do much of that for you, even though you think they might. Then there's hybrid. And hybrid, the problem with hybrid is there's a lot of scammers out there that kind of like um, mask themselves as hybrid, where they will say like they'll do all of the stuff for you. They'll find the editor and the book writer and whatever, and you pay for all of that. But then they make you buy like 1,000 copies of your own book because they get that money and they get a huge chunk of it. And then they don't care if you sell any more books or anything. And so they're not really there in the best interest of you selling this book long term. They
It's like
just
a process.
it's essentially just like a make money for them. And then there's publishers. There's so many of them, hybrid publishers, where they will work with you and they will have like a book manager and a project manager, and they will have different editors for you to work with and book cover artists, and they will get the IB whatever number for the book and all of that kind of
The
stuff.
IBN. It's the IBN. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're paying, I'm looking at probably around 20,000 to get my book out, and then you get a percentage of however many book sales, and you work those deals out with the hybrid publisher, or you can self-publish. You can literally take an ebook you've written and put it on Amazon.
Yeah.
The trouble with that is if you haven't had a developmental editor or a grammatical editor, or there's so many different things with books and the covers and like all these different things. If you just want to get something quickly out there on Amazon to call yourself an author, you can. But if this is something that like you want to live in the world for a long time and you want to be proud of, and like it's a part of your business, I don't suggest going that route. It was the route I for sure thought I was going to go until I started learning more about this process. But yeah, that's kind of just like, yeah, just the different options. It really is.
Yeah.
Up to you. Yeah.
I've seen a couple of I've actually had a couple of authors like on the show, and I think they've self-published on Amazon, and they're I think it depends, right? Like you said,
And you could be super successful, and it depends what your why is too, right? Like if you want to create a workbook or a book just like about something that you share with your clients, or you share with just people who, hear about you and stuff like that, totally cool. A lot of the times when I've purchased the self-published books, like you can very much quickly tell that they were self-published. It doesn't feel like a book you would find in a bookstore.
Right.
I don't even know if you can get self-published books in a bookstore. I actually don't know.
I think you have to pitch them.
Yeah.
I think so.
So I don't know. There's a bunch of different options, and I will be going with hybrid for sure, because I believe in paying people who have zones of genius. I don't, and it is not my zone of genius to publish a book.
Right. Right. Or at least like have a consultant on how it's going to go.
100%.
Yeah.
And
I actually have
self-publishers. I hope it didn't come out that way.
No. It just, like I was saying, I think it depends on who your audience is. It depends on if you have already a following, and it depends on, like you said, what's your why and like what's your how. How do you want to use it, right?
It's so tough. Like it's not easy to find a self-publisher, or a hybrid publisher. It's not easy to find one that you can trust. It's not easy none of it is easy. Hence why most people don't do it. Just like starting a podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
None of it is easy. That's right. That should be like the theme for everything. None of it is easy. So we're about halfway through here, so I'm just gonna do a quick intro for anybody that's just tuning in. You're listening to Negotiating Happiness, and you are live. We are live on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. And some of our shows are also on Roku TV. So give us a quick check there if you want to sit back and watch. And I am here with Natalie from S&S Creative. That's Sick and Successful. And we're talking all about the writing of her book, Sick and Successful. So we've gone over a couple of things, including the process of, kind of what's waiting on the other side for Natalie once she writes the book. And we talked about her reasoning. What about, we kind of delved a little bit on this, but I was going to say, what specific advice do you have for people that are looking to kind of go this way?
To write a book?
Yeah.
I don't really honestly have any advice because I know that's tough, but like I don't really have any advice because I'm just following my own journey and like I haven't fully published or anything yet. But for me, it really was about finding something that felt right and felt like I was guided through the process. And I didn't feel like I was just sitting down behind a Word document and writing out my traumatic story. And so I have peer support that I meet with every single week and they review pages, and I have experts that I can go to and turn to, and it's really been harder than I even imagined with their warnings of how hard it was going to be. So really like prepare for the journey, that it's going to be, it's like almost a full-time job in and of itself, and that it's a lot harder than you might even think it is, even though we all know that writing a book must be hard. And it kind of makes me want to get into like what the hardest part of writing the book has been. And that's been getting into some of those moments we talked about a little bit earlier, but getting into some of those traumatic moments that have unlocked even more memories in my brain, and like going through, I went through and I printed out every single, I use something called Social Book, but I printed out every caption I've ever written on Instagram. And it's like this, it cost me around over $1,000, and it put them into books with the pictures and stuff like that per year, because I've been posting since 2011, so there was a lot of books, but I went through them all, and like my book is going to have flashbacks to some of the posts. But then I also went through messages on Facebook Messenger with exes who treated me disgustingly while I was going through some of the hardest moments of my life, and old emails that I found in an old Hotmail inbox that I was able to get into. And
Oh my God,
some
I
of
can't
that,
imagine what the
right?
Hotmail inboxes all contain at this point.
Right? I got in and I was like, "Oh man. Like if I knew now, or if I knew then what I know now, this shit would have not looked the same." And those moments, I didn't expect them to be so just eye-opening, so tough. And so getting them into words and processing them into a book that has a point. Because yes, it is a memoir, but a memoir still is just a glimpse of time with some kind of outcome and some kind of point. And so that's been the hardest part, is figuring out like what's the point of my story? What is a thread that kind of goes through the whole, I would say, I think the story is about probably 15 years long, just from like diagnosis to now. And so, yeah, that's kind of like answering your question, but giving you another one as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's also very personal, right? So it depends on what kind of book you're writing too. But it
Mhm.
sounds to me, if I were listening to this and I wanted to write a book, it sounds to me like be genuine, be authentic, and have a point to what you're saying.
And
And
just
it's
start searching for help. Like just like I said, I interviewed ghostwriters. I interviewed people who help you pitch to traditional publishers. I interviewed people who coach you while you're writing the book. Like I even work with some as clients, and they're amazing, and I'd love to work with them. It just wasn't the right fit for me to start the book. Doesn't mean it won't be to publish. But yeah, it's there's so
yeah,
many different avenues to take. You kind of have to do the one that feels best for you.
right. And how do you this is going to be a ridiculous question, I'm well aware, but I'm like, how do you balance it all? So how do you make time for it? How do you, like, give me the practicalities of what your day-to-day life looks like? How, because I know that a lot of people just go, oh well, like, one, you're a mom already, so you just figure it out. You just, I hate, you just figure it out. And when friends say it, it's different. But when other people say it in like a professional space, you're like, what do you mean you just figure it out? Like, you've given me zero information to work with. So I just want to know, like, how do you balance it all? Like, what works for you? I have guests that say they have to have a specific routine, they have to do XYZ, and I'm like, wow, that would never work for me. I'm way too scattered
Yeah.
for that, right? So what works for you? Like, how do you make all of this happen?
It's interesting because I get this question essentially every time I talk somewhere, but I think it's such a good question. I was just asked it when I was on the stage last week. Because it's a lot of things, right? Like you said, I am a mom to a 3-year-old. I am 22 weeks pregnant. I have 16 employees. Company is the slowest it's ever been. So that's tough. That means I'm now a full-time salesperson. I am a wife, a mom, a best friend. I have things I like to do.
I was gonna say you're also
Chronic
Natalie, like
illness.
you're also
Yeah,
an individual, right?
yeah,
So let's not
exactly.
forget.
So there's the way that I like to, because I've answered this question so many times, I found like a way to kind of, I like visuals, but to put it in a visual that I have brick walls or concrete walls that are my boundaries that don't move no matter what, that to me don't even feel like a boundary anymore because it's not, it's a wall. It doesn't, there's not even any way that I will bend on that. And so what that is Fridays, I don't, sorry, Saturdays, Sundays, and after 3 p.m., I will not take a single meeting. Work is done and work is done. Like, it doesn't matter if there's an urgent something. It doesn't matter if there's a client that wants to close a deal. It doesn't matter if an employee quit. I'm not answering anything 3 p.m. or Saturdays or Sundays because I don't work. I don't look at we use Slack. It's not a work day. And if like I want to, if I'm creating content or I'm doing something that's creative for me, I might. But like there's no client meetings, there's no urgent, there's no Natalie CEO happening at that time.
Yeah.
Same in morning, same on holidays. Like my phone might come out, but it's not coming out for work. And so that's my concrete wall, not going to bend no matter what. My like rubber wall, or I call them dry walls, like an actual
Because
dry
you can
wall
bust right through it.
that I can bust through, but I can also move it to a different spot, or I can like bend it a little bit. I know drywall doesn't bend, but like it is my metaphor is
Yeah.
Fridays, I don't take meetings. Fridays are CEO days, which means I'm doing profit, I'm doing like numbers analysis, I'm doing stuff for the book. I meet with my book team. I might take a spa day, or I might work all day and finish something that was due the week before, but I took a day off. But I am not taking any client meetings, any sales meetings, anything like that, unless I actually want to. And I manually put it into that calendar myself,
Yeah.
cognizantly knowing that I'm taking up that time. And
Right.
same with Monday half days. So Monday after 12, same thing. And then I go through every single week the week before. So usually the Friday before, the Thursday before, and I put in lunch spots every single day. And if there's more than 3 or 4 meetings, I'll book off the rest of the day. Or if there's a project due, I'll book off the rest of the day. So that's my drywall. I am very need things to be like need it to be flexible, so I don't have a lunch at the same time every single day. Sometimes it's at 11, sometimes it's at 2, sometimes I don't, and I finish at like 3 and then I take whatever. So, but
Yeah.
I put that in the week before because if I don't, I end up having 6 back-to-back meetings and having to reschedule, which has happened literally last week. Um, but I'm human, so I do my best. When business is slow, it gets closer to that wall, like closer
Yeah.
to my boundaries. They get bent and pushed a little more than I like. And then on top of that, I get a massage a minimum of once a month. And like it's been I got one last week and I've tried, or the week before last week, and then last Friday I was like, it must have been a month ago. I need to book one. And I'm like, oh man, okay, I'll push it to next week. So like when I get more burnt out, it's every couple of weeks. I
Yeah.
I do go get my nails done when I feel like it. I take naps in the middle of the day if I need it. I will reschedule things without feeling guilty. So those
Yeah.
are some of the boundaries. Where it comes to writing, I've really felt out where I can write the best. And because the stories that I was writing, I've gotten most of those out, were so traumatic, I realized I couldn't fit them in my day because it would be really, really hard.
Yeah.
And so I started writing kind of like when my daughter would go to bed at around 8 p.m., I'd write for half an hour and an hour and then watch some stupid YouTube to de stress or but
Yeah.
I would put in every Friday, I set goals for what I want to get done for the book the following week. And then I go and do that. And then I have set up weekly meetings with my team so that I'm accountable to things there. And I use my Google Calendar to keep me like if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. So that's kind of
Yeah,
how it
I
works.
can relate to that. If it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. It's not that I don't want it to exist, but I am human and I cannot possibly hold on to all of that information.
Exactly.
But this was such a great and, thorough response, because I can relate to a lot of it. And while I used to be on the side of like, oh, I can't have these concrete boundaries because what if, right? And it's like, yeah, but there's always going to be what ifs, and people are just going to deal with it. And you get to the point where you're like, but if I don't put those boundaries in, there will be
Exactly.
no more Adriana to deal with the what ifs eventually.
Exactly.
So I know that people are, and I feel like this all the time too, where I cross my own boundaries because I feel like I'm behind. So that's when I had to kind of have to like take a step back and be like, why are you behind?
Yeah.
That's the reasoning is not because of time. Like, you're behind with something else. You get more stressed out, so you're not as efficient. You don't sleep as much, so then you're not as efficient. You don't take the time to plan ahead. You're not as efficient. So that's a really good point. I used to have this habit that has kind of died off a little bit, which I'm sad that it did, but it evolved. So I'll explain. I used to have that where I would sit down and for the next week I would plug things in for the week ahead. I still do that if I have to be somewhere, but it kind of died off a little bit because then things got really busy. So instead now I just use my scheduling links, which do kind of the same thing like you were saying, right? I'm sure you do the same thing, where we're not going to have discovery calls on like
Yep.
Fridays or Mondays. Like Mondays are like my CEO days. It's just the show and like, whatever else. And we're only going to have a couple of slots in the morning and the afternoon. We're no longer going to open up entire days for meetings because they do get booked up so fast. And it's daunting. It not that I don't want to talk to everybody, but I have had days where I'm 3 meetings in and I'm like, I want to go to sleep and I can't. And then it's like, oh, here's another meeting. Here's the fourth meeting. And then you're like, I've done no client work.
Yeah.
Right. So it is important to figure out your schedule in an ideal way. So I don't care if people are like, yeah, but I'm not at my ideal pace right. It doesn't matter. Figure it out. What's your ideal schedule? And literally just start trying to live like that. And even if you fall off the bandwagon, it's okay. Next week is a new week. Try again.
Yeah. And that's where you put in place those concrete boundaries. Like for me, evenings and weekends don't even exist on a calendar. Like they're just not there. They're not available unless it's like we're going to a movie and I put it in to remind my husband or something like that. But like
Right.
they're not in there. They're not available. That's a different calendar for family stuff. I don't even feel a morsel of guilt because that's just, even when someone asks 4 p.m., I'm like, in my head, that's just not on, like, that's not an open spot on the calendar. So
Right.
those boundaries for me never get crossed because they don't even feel like a boundary. Like it
Right.
literally feels like it doesn't exist. Those days aren't there. I can't even if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, my other boundaries get crossed, and they get like if I showed you my calendar right now, you'd probably vomit. I vomit looking at it, and so I'm like, hey, I need to preach or practice what I preach and go through, and I did earlier today again,
Yeah.
even though I did it last week, but I did it full further along. I blocked off the next 2 weeks because I have like a minimum of 4 meetings every single day, and it's getting hectic. So
Yeah.
I'm like, if all these people close, we're not going to have time to do it anyways. So I need to just slow it all down.
Right.
But we do
Right.
need to remember that our health is number one priority, and that includes burnout. Because yes, burnout is becoming very much of like a self-care word, where it's being almost used a little bit too much, but it is so real in our society with like the economy the way it is, the food the way it is, the everything, the news cycles the way they are. Like, I don't know if anybody isn't burnt out. So we need to
Right.
reprioritize
It's
ourselves.
it's it's interesting because it has long lasting effects. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not just like you have the stomach flu, so you're sick for 24 hours. It's not like that.
No.
It literally changes your brain chemistry.
Yeah.
It literally changes the way you look at things, what makes it worth it for you. Again, half of the show was I want to show people that you can be happy and can do things your own way and can run your own business the way you want to because of all the blood, sweat, and tears that come with it. But it's such a fine line between doing that all the time. I'm completely burnt out. I had, and I've said this on the show before, I've had a really really busy December, and I was super thankful for it. My clients were great, but also I think I took off 3 days the entire month, which is crazy. I was supposed to take off 2 weeks. I didn't plan it ahead, and I said mistake number one, wasn't planned ahead.
Yeah,
You know, thinking that it was just gonna die down, and no, nobody wanted to die down, right? And
exactly.
then and then I made the mistake of I actually booked time off, which was not that wasn't the mistake. The mistake was it's all the way in June, right? So I now have to go from January to June with the idea, which is wrong, with the idea of like just a little bit longer, you'll get there. Instead of being like, hey Adriana, you just need some time off in between now, halfway through and then in June, right?
Yeah.
But it is hard, like you said, with the economy. Things have also been slow for me for this month. January and February were great, and I didn't plan. I made mistakes. I did not plan, and here I am again. So I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better, and I'm also experiencing these types of successes where you're like, this is amazing. This has never happened before. I'm hitting all these milestones. I'm hitting like, percentages looking great. And then all of a sudden you make mistakes again because again, we're human.
Yep.
Why am I making these mistakes? Because I'm burnt out and I'm just like holding on to anything
Yeah.
that seems like a reward, right? Because if I wasn't burnt out, my logical brain would be like, yeah, this is a reward, but let's like dial it back because we're going to need this for later, right? So, but because you got nothing.
Literally. And hopefully this is okay to talk about, but I
Yeah.
being open about this because it reminds me about this is I was going to start my own show on this station, right? Because we had one of the
Yeah.
most listened to episodes. That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what an amazing opportunity." And then like that was a reward for me. Like how amazing to have my own show. Like I can't imagine. And I get to talk to
Right.
people every week. That's what I love. Get more people listening to Sick and Successful and getting that mission out. That's like literally what I'm all about.
Yeah.
But then I realized I had deadlines that I had to get things in and I wasn't doing them. And my team had been done for weeks. And I just needed to get a few things done. And I was like, I don't even have capacity to write a 200-word description about what this show is going to be about. How am I going to do this show every week and do it well? Like, and I realized no, and it doesn't have to be now. And I'm burnt out already. Let's not add something else because it feels good. Whereas
Yeah.
like you do need to do things that feel good, but balance the workload. And I'm gonna do it one day. It's just not today. And maybe instead I need to go and have a massage at that time every week.
But what a great moment of self-reflection, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of people don't get to that. And it's kind of like, you're putting your hand in the cookie jar and you're smacking your own hand away to be like, hold on a minute, hold on. And I have to say this, like I've had some things happen in my life that have put things, not to me personally, but to really close family, friends, that have put things into perspective for me lately. And I can't stress how important it is to know, like check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Check in with yourself because it could all go away like this,
Literally.
right? So I feel like you of all people, dealing, with chronic illness, you probably understand even more what I'm saying, but I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm not trying to discourage anybody from doing anything, but you can't do all those good things later if you don't take care of yourself now,
Yep. Yep. Where none
right?
of us are promised another day.
No,
Yeah.
no. And I mean, we have kids, we have families, we have friends. It's not just our goals or our aspirations. It's like we have lives
Yep.
that we want to take care of. So I'm really glad to hear that. And while I, would love to see you with your own show and that's still possible, you're taking the time to take care of you right now. And that is way more important.
And it's not going to benefit anyone if I start a show for 3 weeks or 2 months or 5 months and then I'm like, can't do it. Bye. Like, that's not going to benefit
Right.
anyone, including myself. I would feel so
Right.
shitty. So, and that's like,
Right.
that's an example, but that's with everything in life,
I
side
think so.
hustles, new things. It's like, self care is a word, but we do need to prioritize ourselves. And that's
Yeah.
such a hard thing to do.
Yeah. And I like to challenge people when it comes to that kind of thing. And it's like we always want to do more. And I'm always like, and I used to think that. I used to have that same exact mentality. I was like, it's fine. I'll just tack on more to get this done. But it's like, wait, Why would you do more when you have a perfectly good system right in front of you that's working? So why can't you just reframe what you already have to give you that more, to give you that? And that's when different people of different professional backgrounds come in. So it's like you said, maybe scaling isn't my zone of genius, so I'm going to need to get some advice. Or
Yeah.
maybe me handling social media is not really as beneficial as I think it is, so I need to hand that over.
So you hire
Or
S&S Creative.
exactly. So right, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it's hard when you're like, it's fine, I'll just have a side hustle, but your main hustle is already bringing in the bread. You just have to reframe it, rework it.
Exactly.
Your messaging's changing, this and that. So why would you not allow yourself the opportunity to still have those 2-3 measly hours that you have at night to just do whatever it is that you need to do and feel like a human,
Exactly.
and not take on another thing. But I get it, in this economy, like, have you seen the prices of eggs and
I know.
I fruit? I feel like the only thing that hasn't changed is the banana.
Ah,
Like, the banana's still, like 50 cents a pound or whatever it
we're all just
is.
eating so
Like,
many bananas. I've literally talking to a
yeah,
friend of mine who's a lawyer yesterday and saying like both of us, because I've had a corporate job ever since I wasn't even done university yet. So I was
yeah,
making good enough money, right? And ever
yeah,
since that, which was 2011, I think I graduated, something like that. So many, 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 many moons ago. And he's a few years older than me. He's a lawyer. He's like, I've never had to look at prices of groceries. And like, I know that's a privileged thing to say. It really is. And not that I've never struggled financially, but that was never a place where I cut back. It was like, I got what I wanted and then I would cut back in other places.
yeah,
I've never looked at prices of groceries. I've shopped Instacart since 2020. Like, I haven't gone grocery shopping, but it's been the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months where I'm like, excuse me, one bag from Instacart was $200. Like, I bought our essentials that run out in a couple of days. Like,
yeah,
this is insanity. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how, and I know it's a little different in the States. The price of living has still gone up a lot, but it is astronomical in Canada. I heard somebody came from New York to, I think, Toronto or something, and was like, how are Canadians staying alive right now?
Right,
Like,
right.
it is beyond, it is beyond.
It is
I don't even know how people are surviving who aren't making, because
ridiculous amounts of money. Yeah, let
exactly.
me let me remind everybody. I'm pretty sure minimum wage is still like 14,
You
$15
can't survive
Canadian
on
an
that.
hour.
Mm-mm.
There's no way. There's
No way.
absolutely no way. And my moment of that, like the realization, was when I remember opening up my cabinet, and I didn't have my usual like hand soap, dish soap, like my backups, hand soap, dish soap, detergent, and I'm looking and I was like, oh my god. I'm like, I don't think I've ever ran out of this stuff until right now, because I had stopped buying things in twos, and I had
Yeah,
stopped buying things. I was like, no, I guess we're gonna like wait until the last possible moment, right? I don't even think I have an extra tube of toothpaste in the house right
I
now.
know. I know.
Like, how is that a thing?
I don't know. And
You
how long
know?
is that going to last? Like, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer for anyone listening right now, because I think we're
Yeah.
all feeling the same thing. But we're in a dual income household and we have a roommate and we're still scraping by. And I have a business, right? Like, which is good at moments and bad at moments, but like, we're still scraping by and we're in an
Yep.
average priced home. Like, yeah,
Yep.
stuff.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. So it's on that note, let's all hope that we're gonna find some better times ahead of us,
Yeah,
right?
well, and that's where you push yourself too much, right? Because you're like, hey, well, I can make more money. I can be more successful. I can do this side hustle. I can do that thing. And then we're all struggling from burnout. And so it's
Yeah.
this like round robin, round circle of like, where do you give? And ultimately, it's finding your own happiness and where you can give and where you can take. And if
Yep.
you need to cut back a little for the first time in your life, that might need to be what happens. If you need to start looking at prices of groceries for the first time in your life,
Yep.
might need to be what happens for a
Yep.
bit. And we just keep doing our best. It's all we can do.
Yeah. Shop the sales. You want to
Yeah.
give a quick shout out to Optimum Points at Shoppers, because let me tell you, I got $40 so fast, like back the other day. It was amazing.
I
So
love that.
And I use it at the grocery store after. That's exactly what I do.
That's so cool.
Right? You go to Optimum
Do
Days,
they even
you
have Shoppers Optimum in the States?
I don't think so. They
I don't
have
think so.
like I don't
Sorry.
know. Shoppers is like CVS or any other pharmacy, right?
Yeah,
So all I can think of is Boots. And I was like, wait, no, that's UK. I used to live in Scotland. I was like, no, Boots is in the UK.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Of
As
course.
always, a pleasure. I want you to come back on once your book is ready to go.
100%.
And I want to talk a bit more about it because I think it is an incredible story and you have accomplished so much and
Thank you.
I do think you should shout it from the rooftops. So I'd like to be a part of that.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for everybody that tuned in. We will be live again next week, and I believe we have a guest. See, everybody knows I'm not prepared enough to talk about the next week's guest, but just come. It'll be fine. It'll be great. Thank you so much for everybody in the chat room. A big thank you to the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network for the platform. We truly appreciate it, and have a wonderful rest of your week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.